Surgeon General also was asked on MSNBC about Joe Rogan's vaccine comments on Spotify, and he said that tech companies have an important role to play in stopping misinformation because they are the predominant places where misinformation spreads. Spotify is putting out advisory warnings on episodes that have to do with COVID-19. Does the White House and the administration think this is a satisfactory step, or do you think that companies like Spotify should go further than just putting a label on there to say, hey, go do your own, check this out. There's more research you can look at, scientific research regarding COVID.
Sure. Well, last July, you probably know, but the Surgeon General also took the unprecedented step to issue an advisory on the risk of misinformation in public health, which is a very significant step. And amid that, he talked about the role social media platforms have. So our hope is that all major tech platforms and all major news sources, for that matter, be responsible and be vigilant to ensure the American people have access to accurate information on something as significant as COVID-19. That certainly includes Spotify. So this disclaimer, it's a positive step, but we want every platform to continue doing more to call out mis and disinformation while also uplifting accurate information.
There's more that can be done. Hey, you little fascist, that's a threat. That's exactly what it is. Politicians and their spokes-chicks didn't used to talk this way. They were not allowed to talk this way because the First Amendment explicitly prohibits it. You're not allowed to use government power to shut down broadcasters who criticize you, period. And now that's exactly what they're trying to do. So far, Joe Rogan's employer, Spotify, hasn't caved to the pressure. Rogan still has a job, but the company is bending. It's deleted more than 20,000 COVID-related podcast episodes made by other Spotify hosts. Spotify claims they, quote, cause harm. How exactly can a podcast cause harm?
Biden slamming the social media platforms. NBC's Peter Alexander asked the president what his message is to platforms like Facebook on their handling of COVID disinformation.
They're killing people. I mean, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated. And they're killing people.
Facebook responding in a statement saying, quote, we've partnered with government experts, health authorities, and researchers to take aggressive action against misinformation about COVID-19 and vaccines to protect public health. So far, we've removed more than 18 million pieces of COVID misinformation, removed accounts that repeatedly break these rules, and connected more than 2 billion people to reliable information about COVID-19 and COVID vaccines across our apps. Now, the White House is taking an increasingly aggressive stance.
You went through kind of the top line details of this yesterday, but can you elaborate a little bit on the Facebook,
Sure.
the administration to Facebook flagging of disinformation, and then there's also some reporting that we've had that Facebook maybe hasn't been as proactive as the White House would like it to be in response to some of the flagging. So the process of how the flagging works, and then whether Facebook has been amenable to those requests.
Sure. So we are regularly making sure social media platforms are aware of the latest narratives dangerous to public health that we and many other Americans are seeing across all of social and traditional media. And we work to engage with them to better understand the enforcement of social media platform policies. So let me give you an example just to illustrate it a little bit. The false narrative that remains active out there about COVID-19 vaccines causing infertility, something we've seen out there flowing on the internet quite a bit, in other places as well, which has been disproven time and time again. This is troubling, but a persistent narrative that we and many have seen, and we want to know that the social media platforms are taking steps to address it. That is inaccurate, false information. And that is an example of the kind of information that we are flagging or raising.
And then has Facebook been as proactive as the White House would like in terms of its response to those flags?
Well, I think as I noted yesterday, Phil, there are more steps that everyone can take. And I would just note again, this is a responsibility of officials speaking, of course, on behalf of the government. It's a responsibility of members of the media. It's the responsibility of citizens and civic leaders and people who are trusted voices in communities around the country. That has a broad definition. Social media platforms is one of them. And as we know, it is also there are also areas where a lot of people get news and information. Sometimes those are accurate news items, reported by some of your outlets or accurate information shared by a neighbor. Sometimes there is information that is not. It is hard to discriminate, as we know. This is not a new issue, but it is an issue that is impacting people's lives. So a couple of the steps that we have, that could be constructive for the public health of the country are providing for Facebook or other platforms to measure and publicly share the impact of misinformation on their platform and the audience it's reaching. Also with the public, with all of you, to create robust enforcement strategies that bridge their properties and provide transparency about rules. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others for providing misinformation out there. Taking faster action against harmful posts. As you all know, information travels quite quickly. If it's up there for days and days and days, when people see it, it's hard to put that back in a box. And of course, promoting quality information. Algorithms, I don't know how they work, but they all do know how they work. So those are some of the steps that we think could be constructive for public health, for public information, for public, and the right of the public to know.
Even if they have the best intentions at heart, they are a team of flawed humans like everyone else. So to have such an authoritarian force clamp down on anyone, even health experts, that dissent from the narrative, there's never really been a time in American history where that was allowed with the partnership with the government. That's an infringement on free speech. Free speech includes being able to hear others speak.
Well, we work with influencers because we think that people trust their influencers more than they trust many other sources, including news sources, including governments, including ministries of health, and including their own families. So we're trying to tap into the people who have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers and trying to get them to spread the word.
I share the concern about how to maintain sustained interest, let alone a sense of urgency.
The internet and social media and the fact that there are fewer gatekeepers and that fewer institutions can play a gatekeeping function.
One thought I have is, to the point of, do we create a moment in time that we work toward?
Algorithms to sift through information on these kind of social media platforms.
Make sure that we have the right representatives on traditional media networks in order to portray our side of the story and make sure that there isn't misinformation.
In order to portray our side of the story.
Overwhelming amounts of dis and misinformation circulating over the internet. In some cases, limited internet shutdowns are being implemented to quell panic.
People are avoiding public spaces out of fear of infection and in compliance with public health recommendations. This has had a dramatic effect on the retail and service sectors.
In other words, I think states are going to want to be able to decide for themselves on, in some circumstances, some of the issues that are relevant. So one of the challenges will be ensuring that you're using an existing mechanism, and I think Sophia's right about the UN as being sort of the base of operations in a sense, both for the funding but also for a whole series of other issues that you would be looking at for allocation, coordination, et cetera.
Governments will need to partner with traditional and social media in order to research and develop nimble approaches to countering misinformation. For their part, media companies, we believe, should commit to ensuring that authoritative messages are prioritized and really false messages are suppressed. Commit to ensuring that authoritative messages are prioritized, really false messages are suppressed.
Talking about misinformation and disinformation almost as an info virus, infecting and spreading among a community.
Certainly, those of us in the public health community use the media to get out the messages. The public health messages. So they were really important on sort of, as you said, sort of putting a cone around the misinformation.
And third, by helping people become more news literate. We've seen that it seems to act almost as an inoculation, helping people resist misinformation better.
Yeah.